So carpal tunnel syndrome is a syndrome that affects people who have repetitive use of their hands, and it could also be caused by a traumatic incident. For instance, if someone, say, falls on their outstretched hands, or has to prevent a tractor trailer from going off the road because it's just been impacted by another vehicle and they're trying to prevent the vehicle from going off of the road, then that could cause a traumatic carpal tunnel injury. But what we most often see with a carpal tunnel is a repetitive use. For instance, repetitive use of a keyboard, repetitive use of tools that require twisting and turning of the hands and wrists repetitively. Chefs or cooks sometimes complain of carpal tunnel because they're lifting a pan and also turning their hands repetitively every day, all day. That is the purpose of their job, along with anyone who performs, say, data entry, who is using a keyboard all day during their job. In order to prove that your carpal tunnel injury is as a result of your work environment, basically has to come from a doctor, as does any injury. So for instance, an injured worker might go to his or her doctor and say, my hands fall asleep at night, or, I have this terrible pain when I sleep at night in my wrists, and the doctor is going to send you for testing, and that testing is going to reveal whether or not you're suffering from a carpal tunnel syndrome. And then if you explain to the doctor, hey, look, I've been doing data entry for the last 10 years, basically 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that doctor is likely going to conclude it's as a result of what you do. A repetitive stress injury is different from some other types of workers' compensation claims because sometimes you don't have a date of accident. So as carpal tunnel might be caused by a traumatic event, it's more likely seen, or we see it more frequently, in situations with repetitive injuries. And oftentimes with a repetitive injury, the injured worker would go see his or her doctor saying, hey, I have this pain when I'm sleeping, my hands fall asleep, what could it be? And the injured worker doesn't know that it's an injury at work, they just know that their hands hurt or their hands fall asleep. So they really don't discover that they have this condition until they go see a doctor. And oftentimes that's not through the employer. As soon as you know that you have an injury and that it's work-related, you need to provide your employer with notice. And sometimes that employer might provide you with coverage, and other times the employer might not. But it's most important to reach out to us here at the Epstein Law Firm, and we will help guide you through that process with getting your employer notice of the circumstance and attempt to get coverage for those claims.